Right, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for another of our Thursday morning webinar events. And as much as I personally miss the physical events and getting together in person, I have to say this now being our 27th webinar that we've done. I think if we move away from this, we're going to miss it. So, and the participation that we've had in registrations for all of our events, both broad and niche, has been incredibly heartening. So today we look at open measurement, and I'm very excited by this particular session because it acts as a kind of preview to a product evolution that's being underpinned by open measurement standards, specifically for video. And we are very lucky to have a VP of product from TechLab who'll talk us through the underlying product evolution, its capabilities, and what it means for everyone, and also sort of where we're headed towards. But just as a quick reminder of the sort of underlying philosophy of open measurement, the fact, I think it's very important to remember that the fact that you have a large group of very competitive verification vendors, measurement providers, viewability vendors coming together collaboratively to work to improve a product and make it easier for everyone in this manner is, it's not only refreshing, it's not only exciting, it feels like philosophically it embodies exactly the type of work that TechLab believe in and how they support all of the international IABs in the industry in this benevolent, collaborative manner. I think it's important just to remind ourselves of that. And when it comes to the specific benefits of open measurement for various reasons, you're going to hear more about that from Shailley. But I just wanted to remind everyone of why it's so important and why potentially it acts as a really good foundational launching point almost for what's to come in terms of collaborative measurement for the industry. So today we have a wealth of talent supporting us through this event. We've got Jessica from Integral Ad Science, and don't forget that Integral Ad Science effectively donated the base code for the OM SDK a number of years ago, which have been built upon. Shailley, who's VP of Product at TechLab. Georgina is joining us from GroupM, and then we have Ben Campbell joining us from 9. But before we jump into the industry panel, we're going to have a presentation from Shailley Singh. So please, you can take over the screen now, Shailley, and start presenting your slides. And I have the pleasure and privilege of liaising with Shailley fairly regularly, actually, at TechLab. So it's fantastic to have him here and have access to his brains and level of talent, frankly. So take it away, Shailley, and we'll run a one-to-one together very quickly before we then jump into the panel.
Thank you, JJ, and thanks all of you for attending and making the time to listening to us. So I'll talk about the open measurement, and this is the agenda that I have for today. I'll talk a little bit about TechLab. We feel that a lot of the times people are not clear about TechLab and how we are different and the work that we do. And then we'll straight jump into open measurement, what it is, a little bit background on how we created it, how it works, and then what is the adoption we've seen so far and what we see upcoming in the future. So about TechLab, so we are IAB TechLab. The way we are different from IABs is typically on the work that we do. IABs are more oriented around market development, supporting sales, marketing functions. TechLab is more on the technical standards, supporting the product development within the organizations. So IAB would do activities like education and certification, research, public policy, guidelines and business standards, events and networking, whereas TechLab will focus more on standardized protocols and specifications, software and tools to support that, compliance programs, and any education and events that is required to support the above programs. So together, we provide you, the industry, with the platform and the foundation that they can focus on product and service development, operational innovation, their own packaging and pricing and competition. So our mission at TechLab is to engage a member community. That way, it allows us to share the costs and share the benefits, and to develop foundational technologies. By design, we make sure that these are broadly available and broadly utilized technology and standards that enable growth and trust in the digital media ecosystem. And we live the trust part, being a neutral, transparent, open source nonprofit organization. So what we do is similar to the standards that you've probably all of you used and know about, like USB or Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. We do similar work, but for digital media. And some of our work, a lot of you may be already familiar with, like the VAS protocol for video, OpenRTB for programmatic, transparency and consent framework for GDPR and other privacy regulations going forward, Open Measurement SDK, which we're going to talk about more, and MRAID for rich media ads in-app. So basically what we do is we help with all of that, developing the foundational technologies. We help reduce the engineering efforts and costs so that you can scale easily, improve the quality and interoperability so that you can innovate, and then increase the speed to market so your companies can grow. So that's in a nutshell what IIB TechLab does. Getting to the open measurement. So this effort basically started 2 to 3 years back, where we had a lot of inputs about, especially around video, that there were a lot of industry requirements that required a major change in the video protocols. So first among them was on delivery, and then verification, and then interactivity. So I will focus more on verification because that's what open measurement does, and that's where the focus for today is. So I won't go into details of the other two. But verification, we found out was that on mobile devices and video players, there were a lot of blocks or hindrances that didn't allow for scale and ease of operation or ease of getting the measurable data from these devices. One was that you needed a native SDK. Second was the BePaid execution, which is the predominant and was the predominant method of measurement, and verification wasn't present. I think if I remember the numbers correct, it was like in single digits percentages that BePaid execution was available. And then MRAID did have something called is viewable, but that was a very high level and did not provide the measurement requirements that advertisers really needed to make decisions on. And then there was no scale in verification with proprietary SDKs because of the app lifecycle and getting into each proprietary SDK had to get into the roadmaps of each of the apps and the SDKs, and that was a long cycle. Plus, of course, the apps did not like maintaining like multiple SDKs. So we came up with these to move the industry towards a more modern stack for video. We decided to create standards, new standards, or revision of existing standards in each of the areas. So for delivery, we decided to focus and standardize on VAS 4.x, which would help the industry move from VAS tags, BePaid tags, and custom tags, and incorporates all of the modern standards for delivery or modern requirements for delivery. For verification, we standardized on OMID, which is the Open Measurement Interface Definition, that is the API. And then we also built the OM SDK, which is the implementation of that API. And then for interactivity, we created SIMID, which is Secure interactive media interface definition, and also vast interactive templates. So I'll focus on the open measurement part and then let's get into how it works. So open measurement is a single integration for app developers so that you can enable measurement by any of the leading third-party measurement or verification providers. And with that model, it brings the scale and consistency to in-app advertising. So originally, of course, it started as in-app, but we'll go into more details on how we are expanding the scope beyond in-app and going cross-screen. How it works is pretty simple. OMSDK is integrated into an app, and then the measurement providers tags are incorporated into the ad creative, and which can listen to the OMAD API signals. So that's at a very simple level. I have a couple more slides to explain different scenarios a little later. And then the benefits, it replaces all the multiple verification SDK integrations. It increases access to supply and provides flexibility for buyers, and provides transparency, consistency, and dependability for measurement metrics. Like JJ was mentioning, that this was a pretty big collaborative effort among competing companies. As you can see here, the open measurement working group is governed by a commit group of 7 companies today, which include Google, DoubleVerify, Integral Ad Sciences, Oracle's Moat, Nielsen, Microsoft, and Pandora. And they actually not just govern, but they actually build the software. They contribute engineering hours per quarter. They also contribute financially to support the distribution and management of the software. So yeah, thanks to all of these companies for making this happen. So this is the 2 different implementations that are typical. One is an app which does its own monetization, can directly integrate OMSDK. And in that case, the app hands over the controls to OMSDK when it runs the ad, and then the OMAD API provides the signals to the measurement provider tags. In the second scenario, it's where an ad network, or typically known as ads SDKs, which actually implement the OMSDK. The app does not have to implement that. And then once the app hands over the ad controls to the ads SDK, ads SDK would initiate the OMSDK, and similar to the other environment, the OMAD API signals would be activated, and the measurement provider's tag can listen into all of those signals. These are some of the capabilities. These are not all of the capabilities, but I just listed some key capabilities so that we can understand the breadth of coverage that you get with OMSDK. One is about the ad session. So when the ad session started, when it finished, when the ad assets actually loaded, when the impression was triggered, and we have multiple impression types that the publisher can incorporate. For example, begin to render or viewable, and any other that they want. And then, of course, it communicates the creative type, whether it was a display ad, a native ad, a video ad, or an audio ad. And the session type, whether the session was native to the app, or whether it was an HTML session, or whether it was a dynamically created view using JavaScript. Then we also capture the click and the invitation to interact with the ad. So if a user clicks through to the advertiser side, that interaction is captured. And if they click on expand or some other interaction within the ad, that's captured. And of course, geometry, that's the viewability part. That's the key objective of OMSDK. So we capture the viewport, the container geometry, which is, and by geometry, I mean the size of the container and how far and where it's placed in the view of the screen, and the ad view, which is the actual ad inside the container. And we also capture obstructions. We have a scope for friendly obstructions can be declared, especially for things like player control, or in the newer apps like TikTok and others have some other user interactions that are considered friendly obstructions that overlay the ad. And of course, it does calculate the percentage in view throughout the ad lifecycle. For video specifically, we capture all the vast events. So start, stop, pause, resume, all the quartiles, and the player states like normal, expanded, or collapsed. And the volume change, we capture both the device and the player volumes. So that's like quick summary of the capabilities. And of course, we have some limitations. We haven't built everything yet. For example, brand safety, that's not built into the OM SDK. It is provided by the verification provider's tag or their JavaScript. It does its own calculation and its own performance for brand safety. Similarly, for fraud and IVT, we've not built any in OM SDK yet. The verification provider that you choose provides that capability. And we don't capture the IDFA or user ID. There's no logic or there's no place in OM SDK to capture that information for privacy reasons. So it merely captures all the campaign level information. Not just that we built the SDK, we also looked at how it will be put to use. So we looked at the delivery channel, which is the VAST, and we created the extensions node for pre-4.x 4.1 versions. And then, of course, 4.1 VAST already had an ad verifications node, a well-defined ad verifications node. So we created an extension that's pretty much exactly the copy of the ad verifications node as an extension, which makes it really easy. You don't have to really migrate to 4.x to use OM SDK. You can quickly add this extension to your existing VAST implementations and become OM SDK capable. Then, of course, we also created the guidance for programmatic, how to understand that a bid request has a capability of OM SDK. So we have 2.x guidance for native and other types of ads. And then we have guidance for AdCom events tracker specification. I have the link at the bottom, and JJ, I'll share this full presentation so you can share it with them later on for full details. And then we created something called a partner name and a partner version, which is because we do certify the OM SDK integrations. And the purpose of the certification is basically to ensure that your integration is going to work for all of the verification providers as expected. And you would save time and material of certifying with individual verification or measurement providers. If it replaces like multiple certifications that you would need to get with just one single certification. And at that time, we assign that partner name. So any buyer or anybody can verify the OpenRDB signal with our compliance API that we provide, that the signal that they're getting is actually from a verified trusted source. And of course, we added the OMED signal into the API framework. So that was the work done on OpenRTP and programmatic to support enabling OM SDK. Moving on to adoption and upcoming. So we've seen very good adoption. It's kind of almost becoming default in the industry for in-app. I listed actually all the APAC, and I was surprised myself. I wasn't expecting so many APAC region customers for OM SDK, but we have 20 plus implementations out of about 73 or 74 that we have certified to date. And going across all of the APAC region, right from India to China, Japan, Vietnam, Taiwan, and of course, New Zealand and Australia. Coming up, so the architecture that we have for OM SDK is pretty simple. We have OMID API, and then we have actual OM SDK implementations for each platform. So we already have Android and iOS that's live. We are going to release web video very soon. And then we also have approvals to start work on tvOS and Android-based devices for connected TVs. And we are in the design phase for the Roku OTT device. So we should have these all in 2021, all of these three platforms enabled. So this is a little bit of a history of how we started. and how we've come full cross-screen, starting with mobile apps and going to browsers and then going to connected TV. So the effort started way back about 3.5 years back as a task force for in-app viewability, which turned into an open measurement working group. And then we had a limited release in October, thanks to Integral Ad Sciences, who donated their initial code, what used to be called as AVID, as part of the Integral Ad Sciences product portfolio. So all of that code was donated by them to Open Measurement Working Group, and then all the other collaborating partners worked to make the release in October. And in April, it was ready for a general release. Then we had a 1.1 release where we open sourced some of the client libraries in September of 2018. And then in 2019, we had a 1.3 release, 1.2 release. And then in 2020, we had the 1.3 release, where we defined the impression definitions in a much more robust manner. We added audio ads measurement, improvements to the creative measurement, and then content URL for brand safety. And now we are working on getting the release for OMSDK for web video ready. And then, of course, we're starting work on the connected TV. So, yep, thank you. And any other questions from OMSDK, feel free to send to omsdksupport@iabtechlab.com. We have a ticketing system where we route it to the right resource to answer that question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shailley. That was excellent. So, and don't forget that this collateral, these slides will be made available to all of you as registrants and attendees, worry not, by the middle of next week. Now, we can see there from the timeline you provided, I think it's fairly clear, and it's unusual to start, isn't it, with sort of in-app first and then move over to web. But the other interesting development now that it's extending out its capabilities is to start with video before you do other environments or product types. Traditionally, you might start with display, for instance, before you look at everything else. So why, as a product type, did TechLab decide to focus exclusively on video first?
So for video, for in-app, I'll just go back a little bit. The reason we went for in-app was because there were challenges in extending these capabilities in-app because of the native SDK requirements, and multiple proprietary SDKs were needed to for a publisher to do business with all the advertisers that they wanted to do business with. So the single SDK was a sweet spot option for everyone. That's why we started with in-app, because the pain points were there. On the web, it was really easy to insert a JavaScript in your ad tag and be able to do a lot of things for display. But coming to your question, it's not so easy for video, because on the web, the video is kind of an in-app environment, because a lot of the publishers monetize through third-party video players, and they have their own, walled container, and it's not always easy to measure everything and get your scripts or JavaScripts or other scripts that will run and do the measurement inside those video players, which act like SDKs. And the second reason was that a lot of them don't even allow BePaid, which is the predominant method. So we needed something else, and that's why we decided to focus on video for web and not for display.
Yeah, of course, because BePaid isn't supported in app. That makes sense. And I mean, the other pain point traditionally with viewability, since it kind of hit the scene, as it were, has been that discrepancy between different providers. Will this, do you feel, bring us closer to reducing that discrepancy?
It should. It will not 100% remove the discrepancy, because the verification providers do have their own proprietary algorithms that they run, especially for brand safety and IVT detection. But all of the geometry data, the determination of viewability, determination of impression, that should come down to near zero with this because everybody's getting the same data from the same software. It's generated in exactly the same way for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Now, one specific area that we should probably dive into, if you don't mind, in relation to this, is how publishers can utilize various access modes when implementing video player ads SDK with a certified OM SDK in their website. Could you give us a quick, brief overview of the various access modes and what they will mean?
Yeah, so OM SDK for web allows, we've created 3 different access modes. And the reason for that is that a lot of the publishers demanded that they do not want to allow third-party scripts to run on their page or to be able to see the content that the user has been watching or to be able to look at the page and look at all the content because of security and privacy reasons. At the same time, the verification providers and advertisers needed to look at a lot of that information to be able to determine brand safety or to be able to determine IVT fraud detection. So we created 3 different modes. The first one is limited access, in which a publisher does not allow any access other than what the OM SDK provides to the verification provider. And this was created for a set of publishers who want to have that kind of control, and then they would negotiate themselves with the advertisers and the verification providers on how they would address brand safety and other things. And then second mode is the creative mode, which we call the creative access mode, which means the verification script has access to the full creative or the player in which the ad is playing. It still doesn't get access to all of the page controls and everything, but this helps them determine brand safety, determine some of their IVT signals, and it's up to the publisher's choice which mode to select when they implement OM SDK. And then we created like a middle path where somebody who wants to give limited access, but also there is a way for them to communicate some basic information to the verification provider, which we're calling domain access mode. In that case, what happens is the access of the verification provider script is limited, but then they are able to communicate the domain on which the ad is being played. So that way, the verification provider can at least determine that it is the right domain where the ad was bought, and even the brand safety and other things. To some extent, they can determine that. Of course, the domain access mode does require some additional work on the publisher. There is a domain loader file that they have to install at their server, which does the job of the communication with the verification script. And we do have a validation service that is required, in which we would periodically go and validate that the domain loader file that the publisher has implemented is exactly what was provided to them, and it has not been tampered with, so that the verification providers can trust the information coming out of that. Okay. Those are the 3 different modes.
Okay. We've got actually a few questions for you, Shailley, but I think what we'll do is we'll jump into the panel and we'll incorporate those attendee Q&A questions into the panel as we roll along. So if we could have the other panelists please jump in, and thanks again for that Shailley.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Welcome everyone. Thanks again for all of your participation. I'm going to start with you, Ben, as the publisher. It was lovely to see the 9 logo up there on the certified partners list. Not only that, I do know that you have successfully integrated the OM SDK into all your apps over the last few weeks, and it might still be early days, but what benefits are you seeing, or at least hoping to see, as you go through this product process in terms of capabilities?
Yeah, well, as you said, Jonas, it is still early days since we rolled out the Open Measurement SDK in our apps. So we're still in the process of educating some of our major trading partners around its availability. and the opportunity for those clients to access reporting through their chosen third-party verification partner. So it's still pretty early days for us, but obviously the benefits are significant. And it's probably worth adding as well that we saw this as an investment. Like it is more effort to roll out the Open Measurement SDK than just to use one proprietary SDK, because when you're rolling out one proprietary SDK, you just certify with that partner, you run testing to make sure there's no discrepancies with that partner, and then you're done. But obviously with the Open Measurement SDK, you need to certify it through the IAB TechLab and then run testing for discrepancies with multiple verification partners. So there's a little bit more involved in that process, but we saw it as a really important thing for us to do, an investment in the future, because the more we can do to give our partners confidence around our premium video supply using whichever partner they choose to verify that with, we think is ultimately a good thing for evaluating 9 inventory. So you see the benefits as being pretty significant.
Yeah, fantastic. And Georgina, I mean, as a buyer from your perspective, agencies and buyers, what are you excited about in terms of what this extension into web video could mean for you?
Yeah, firstly, just completely appreciate how advantageous the OMSDK for app has been for the industry. And we definitely look forward to continuing to see the benefits of further uptake there. It makes total sense for this continue into web, where we know publishers face similar challenges integrating multiple vendors,
Yeah.
As buyers, we definitely want to be able to provide brands with assurance in the way of data that what they're buying has been seen, and we want to be able to do this via the vendor of their choice. So alleviating some of the complexity associated with this concept is really positive. In the current climate in particular, we really want to show our brands that we're making all of their investment decisions count, and with viewability being a key part of this, anything to enhance this capability and measurement, we absolutely support. I think it's really, really exciting that CTV will eventually be a part of this product. A standardized approach to viewability on CTV will be revolutionary in this industry, particularly where we're seeing such a huge increase in the percentage of BVOD consumption on CTV devices.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. In fact, I got in trouble in a previous webinar for declaring 2020 is the year of CTV. I got taken apart by pretty much everyone on the event for that one. But anyway, I sort of stand by it. And look, Jess, don't you agree? I mean, premium video is such an important product area in terms of the Australian marketplace, and that quality supply across all devices and environments has proven so important. So, I mean, from your perspective, how important is it that we can continue to confidently provide access to premium viewable video inventory verified by vendors such as IS and into buyers such as GroupM?
Yeah, definitely. It's hugely important. And to really understand the importance, we can look to the first iteration of the OMSDK to understand the positive impacts that it had on the industry. So if we look at our latest media quality report, which we released yesterday, it showed that viewability levels had increased across all formats and environments worldwide. But this was led by significant gains in mobile app display. And there is no doubt that it was the global and local adoption of the Open Measurement SDK that really attributed to this growth. So with this new release, we can assume that increasing measurement across web environments will have a positive impact, similar to the impact that it has had on mobile in-app, and encouraging publishers to deliver quality video impressions and better supply in market. But let's not forget the buyers. We know that video is capturing more of our consumers' attention, even more so now than ever before. We released our Streaming Wars report, and it showed that 76% of respondents said they were willing to see ads within video content, and that 62% plan to take on ad-funded video streaming services in the next 12 months. So we know that advertisers want to be across video because this is where their consumers are. So with this release, advertisers can now verify more of their video advertising campaigns, which really means that they're measuring 100% and giving advertisers a holistic view of their digital campaigns. So really, this release is a win-win for both sides of the market. Advertisers able to measure more across their digital buy and really gain efficiencies from identifying and optimizing to the best possible channel. And for publishers, it also means that they're being rewarded for offering this premium measurable video inventory.
Yeah, no, exactly. We're going to dive into that a little bit now in the panel. But to start with you, Shailley, I've got a couple of questions which I'm just going to lob at you, if you don't mind. Now, it's around timing. So I know as a product person, it's hard to be nailed down in terms of an absolute date all the time on specific releases. But and we've talked about wanting to provide a specific dedicated session once this is released. When is this standard to be released, and when will the CTV update come along?
So the OM for web, we are trying our best to get it out in within October, that is this month. Yep. But just to give everybody an idea of the challenge for giving an exact date is that we have to put out and add a new license to our existing OM SDK agreement to include web and the conditions under which you would implement web, like the access mode, etc., that I talked about. And that requires signatures and sign off from all of the commit group member companies. So we're talking about companies like big companies like Microsoft, Google, Oracle, Pandora, and you can imagine legal teams from 7 companies agreeing to a license and signing off on that. That's the challenge that we are working with, and that's why we cannot put a date on it. But we're very close. We're very, very close as of today morning, actually. Since I spoke to you yesterday, there has been a slight improvement on the situation.
Right.
So we're getting very close, and I'm very hopeful, like within the month of October, we should be able to release this. And those companies who are part of the Open Measurement Working Group, like these are the 7 companies who are in the commit group, but there are about 45, 50 companies who are in the participant group, who have access to the source code and everything. So if you're part of that group, you do have access to the OM SDK for web because its development is complete. It's already just sitting on the shelf, waiting for the licensing to be completed. They have access to it. They can actually implement it internally for internal testing and development purposes. So yeah, if you're really interested in and getting a heads up in the industry on this, it'll be good to join the Open Measurement Working Group and get access to that.
Yeah, and we'll definitely provide an update here. We'll probably run a dedicated session. And the Video Council are working on a technical CTV paper that could align quite nicely. And in terms of CTV, are we looking at early next year? Yeah,
CTV should be, tvOS and Android should be like Q1 or early Q2 timeframe. Okay. Actually, the team's meeting next Monday to define the road timeline and do the estimates of the work. So we're just about a week earlier, but I'll communicate to you so you can communicate to the other consoles later on.
All right, I'll stop you on the spot. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and Roku will probably take a little bit more time because we are still discussing some of the design alternatives with the Roku team.
Yeah, that's a very prevalent product environment in the US. Ben, I'm going to come back to you, Shailley. Worry not, Ben. So in terms of having a consistent approach with all of your verification vendors, how important and how confident are you that this additional verified supply will enable your products to get deeper into market and into your core clients?
Yeah, well, I'm very confident, basically. So we've had a pretty long-standing relationship with Moat for a while, in 9Now in particular. So we've had their proprietary SDK integrated in our apps historically. And that worked really well for us and our clients. It meant we could provide third-party verification measurement to them. However, there was always a gap in that, obviously, in the sense that if a client was using someone other than Moat as their preferred verification partner, we couldn't give them measurement that aligned exactly with how they like to receive all of their reporting. So implementing the Open Measurement SDK means that any advertising using any verification vendor of their choice can get access to our measurement. So it just levels the playing field a little bit more and gives people a consistent approach regardless of who they might choose to work with. And ultimately just increases transparency around our inventory. And that's a good thing for us because we have premium inventory that we are proud of, and we want to provide advertisers with the ability to measure it. And if we can help clients get to a point where accessing third-party verification measurement using their preferred vendor is just a base expectation when they're running their campaigns, then I think that's a good outcome that we want to try and move towards.
Absolutely. I think that's a really, I think that we can be proud of that story here in this Australian market. I think it's something that we can really shout about and compete globally on. And Jess, from your perspective, beyond just simply scale, what else are IAS hoping to be able to offer as a result of being able to access and verify even more premium supply?
Yeah, so you touched on scale, and scale is really important. And I know that Shailley and Ben, you've also touched on some core business benefits as well. But there are many other benefits that not only are good for IAS, but also for the industry. So for example, the OM SDK enables increased operational efficiencies, which is great from a publisher perspective. The integration of a single SDK and a single certification. For advertisers, it means increasing ease of measurement, less tags to wrap, less tech to deploy. For example, when advertisers work with IAS, they just deploy a single video tag that measures across all the different video formats. The OM SDK also brings increasing standardization, and standardization means less proprietary tech is being deployed, reducing discrepancies, which also was touched on today. But to me, the key benefit of the OM SDK, and I guess echoing you, Ben, is the increased transparency that it brings. So we know that digital advertising can create negative value, and negative value exists when impressions have a negative impact on the brand's image, or impressions that are a complete waste of money because they're either non-viewable or fraudulent. The increased transparency enables our advertising partners to invest in quality impressions. And these are impressions that have the opportunity to be effective and create value. One of the upcoming releases that I believe was mentioned today as well is the ability for publishers to pass back content URLs. We're really excited about this, and this is a hugely valuable piece of data for our clients because it will enable us to measure in-app content level brand safety at scale. However, to wrap it all up, the success of the OM SDK hinges on publisher adoption, participation to continue to integrate the OM SDK and support all the new releases. So industry-wide adoption is definitely critical to bring all these benefits to verification providers, but also the whole industry.
Yeah, it's collaborative effort after all.
Definitely.
Thank you for that. So Georgina, one of your many responsibilities these days is also the operational. So are there specific, from an operational perspective, specific facets to this rollout for video that you're particularly excited about?
Well, I guess future state, very excited about a world where we'd be able to use a single tag for video across all platforms and measure and report on brand safety and viewability stats by the vendor of our choice. We know our publisher friends would be just as excited about a BePaid-less future, both operationally and from an end user experience standpoint. So I think, true third-party measurement on all devices without a need for BePaid is the absolute aspiration in the future. Dreams can come true. But from this release, however, I think the consistency of measurement on all providers, regardless of vendor, is a really exciting result. I know Shailley sort of touched on the fact that regardless of the vendor you're using, it's going to come from the same, original data source. So yeah, from a measurement standpoint, just really measuring apples for apples. Yeah,
and actually, we every 2 weeks we put out an AdTech Matters sort of article piece for our members, and we've got a piece in there today about some trafficking automation, working with vendors such as IAS and a few others through buy-side ad servers, just to make that sort of the wrapping of verification tags a lot simpler. So all of this will make lives a lot easier for all of those in good old ops roles.
Yeah, I think our ad operations team would be very happy about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually on that point, Shailley, a little further, in terms of ad tech vendors on both the buy and sell side, how much effort is required from them to start benefiting from these enhanced capabilities?
So on the buy side, the vendors, all the measurement providers, like I showed you, like all the leading providers are part of the commit group. So they are pretty much ready on that side with their tags that can take advantage of OMSDK. On the publisher side, it's typically like probably 2 to 4 weeks of effort to integrate. And then for the certification, it can depend on what backlog we have at the time, but typically it takes another 3 to 4 weeks, maybe up to 5 weeks at most, to get the certification. We do request all the integrators to, so we publish the testing that we do for compliance and certification. We've already published those. So we do request everyone that run those tests so that when you come for certification, it's a breeze and pretty fast certification, and you don't have to go back and forth.
Okay. And actually a point that Georgina brought up around BePaid. Obviously the evolution looks very VAST compliant, but not BePaid compliant. So is this Shailley Singh getting rid of BePaid for the industry? Is this a strategic move on TechLab's part?
Yep, that's the plan.
Okay.
Everything has to die. God's plan, everything has to die.
Well, everyone believes the IP was created as a hack in the first place.
Yeah, on a serious note, I mean, so I think after we launch the OMSDK for web, we will start seeing the need for BePaid becoming less and less. And then we are also working on one other project, which would probably be the last feature standing from BePaid, which is ad blocking or ad swapping effort. So we are working on how to enable ad blocking or ad swapping when you determine that that particular impression is not brand safe for your brand. I think once we have that, then there should be no reason to use BePaid after that. Yeah. And that's also very far along in the design phase, and it may not even require an OMSDK implementation. It might be a solution on its own that can work everywhere. So I think that's so we'll still have BePaid in transition for a few more months after this.
Yeah, no doubt. Keep your questions coming through, attendees. We do have a few minutes left. There is another question in terms of we mentioned the servicing of the URLs or content signals from publishers. That's probably a question more for you, Shailley, but potentially Jess. It may be in the access modes, actually. How much control do publishers have over if and when those particular signals are passed?
They have control over some signals, like the content URL will be under the control of the publisher because they would need to provide that to the OMSDK. And the impression trigger is under the control. But what we have in the latest version is that irrespective of how the impression was triggered, we do still calculate begin to render measurement is available through the OMSDK. Other than that, everything else is in control of the OMSDK. Oh wait, one more thing, like friendly obstructions that need to be declared by the publisher. Okay. Other than that, everything is under OMSDK's control.
Okay. Well, we will commit to, once it's released, if we can come out by the end of October, whether or not we can do a dedicated full webinar before Christmas. If not, soon after, probably in early February, but we'd love to do a dedicated, more technical session on it. I know there's plenty of information and collateral to come through from TechLab, and once released, we'll certainly make noise about it. And Video Council, no doubt S&G and probably our Exec Tech Council will get hold of it. I think all three of the Australian guests are part of the VAST working group, which has sort of been waiting patiently for various updates. So this is a key one. So I think we'll probably push something out as a working group there. But for now, I don't know if any of the panelists have any questions for Shailley or myself on this in particular. The attendee Q&A seemed to have dropped off. So thank you very much. And a particular thanks to Shailley for dialing in from San Francisco for this. Thank you very much. Thanks for all your help. Thank you, panelists, for everything. We move next week actually to the topic of real estate. as a webinar, which we're particularly excited about. So we keep looking at the vertical topics and trying to support as much as we can. And then we have a week of Measure Up events, where in fact we'll have a couple more TechLab special guests with Alex Cohn and Angelina Eng joining us for what is a 3-day festival of measurement in mid-October. So look out for that. But for next week, it's real estate. And through November, we'll be running a virtual version of the digital AdOps webinars with various topics from auction mechanics to programmatic to potentially CTV and property careers once again. And then in December, we're looking at identity as a topic and potentially privacy and data governance. But for now, thank you very much. Thanks again to all the participants, and I wish you all a very happy Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.